Have you ever wondered why some people seem immune to life's challenges? How do they stay calm, clear-headed, and confident even when everything around them seems to be falling apart? What if I told you that this mental strength isn't reserved for a privileged few, but is a skill anyone can develop? The secret lies in Stoic philosophy, a practice that has stood the test of time, teaching generations to master their minds, overcome their limits, and find inner peace, no matter what happens. In this video, we'll explore 11 powerful Stoic lessons that have the potential to transform how you handle life's challenges. You'll learn how to master your thoughts, face adversity with serenity, and develop an unbreakable mindset. Whether you're dealing with fear, criticism, or suffering, Stoicism can be the path to overcoming your limits and living with more balance, focus, and clarity. These lessons aren't just philosophical theories, they're daily practices you can start applying immediately. Imagine facing any situation, whether it's a crisis at work, a personal conflict, or a loss, with unshakable calm and clarity. This is possible when you incorporate Stoic teachings into your life. So, if you're ready to transform your mind and conquer your inner peace, keep watching until the end. And if any of these lessons resonate with you, don't forget to leave a comment sharing how Stoicism could change your life. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell to stay updated on content about mastering your mind and reaching your full potential. The human mind is, by its very nature, a constant battlefield. Thoughts flood our consciousness every moment, emotions intertwine, and we often feel swept away by this invisible current. It's as if, instead of being the captain of our own ship, we become passengers, at the mercy of the emotional storms that arise along the way. But what if I told you there's a way to take back the helm? The answer lies in Stoic philosophy. Stoicism, with its timeless teachings, offers a quiet path to mastering the mind, where true freedom comes not from controlling the external world, but from our ability to master our own thoughts. Imagine a turbulent river, rushing, relentless, and unpredictable. That's what our thoughts are like, a current pulling us in every direction. But what if, instead of fighting it, you simply learn to observe? Like a wise observer sitting on the riverbank, you become capable of distinguishing between clear water and mud. Stoicism teaches us that the first step to mastering our thoughts is becoming attentive observers without identifying with them. We are not our thoughts. We are what we choose to do with them. By adopting this perspective, we begin to unravel the idea that we have the power to choose which thoughts to nurture and which to release. The philosopher-emperor Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, reminds us that our lives are what our thoughts make them. His words resonate deeply. If we can control our thoughts, we can also control our lives. But how do we do this? The secret lies in understanding that, while thoughts arise without warning, we have the power to choose how to react to them. They have no authority over us unless we grant it. The first step to mastering the mind, therefore, is cultivating the practice of conscious observation. Instead of reacting immediately to every thought, you learn to question, does this thought serve my purpose? Will it lead me where I want to go? This is like planting a healthy tree in the garden of your mind and watering it daily with thoughts that promote peace, clarity, and growth. However, true change doesn't happen overnight. The daily practice of mental control is the way forward. Stoicism doesn't offer a shortcut to happiness, but a profound and effective way to face life's adversities with a serene mind. Marcus Aurelius again teaches us to live in accordance with nature, and this includes accepting that, while the world around us may be chaotic and unpredictable, our minds don't have to be. By practicing mental control, even in the most challenging situations, you begin to discover that true freedom lies not in avoiding suffering, but in learning to face it with dignity and clarity. When you cultivate a strong mind, capable of staying calm in the eye of the storm, you become invincible. And here's the beauty of it. Overcoming our limits doesn't happen in moments of glory, but in those small daily actions. In the moments when we choose not to give in to negative thoughts, when we pause before reacting, when we take a moment to breathe deeply and center ourselves. Stoicism teaches us that these small, repeated choices shape our true mental strength. Over time, this practice of mental mastery becomes the solid foundation upon which we can build a life of inner peace, resilience, and freedom. In moments of crisis, chaos seems to take control, like a raging storm that drags us wherever it pleases. We're overtaken by pressure, emotions, and anxiety, and clarity seems to dissipate, like mist fading at dawn. But the Stoics offer a different perspective. Instead of succumbing to the whirlwind, they teach us to find serenity within ourselves. Stoic philosophy doesn't promise a world without difficulties, but a way to face those challenges with calm and clarity. When everything around us is crumbling, true strength lies in maintaining inner balance, in being able to take a deep breath and observe the storm without letting it knock us down. It's like a sailor who, despite a raging storm, keeps their hands steady on the helm and their mind focused on the goal. They don't control the wind or the waves, but they can adjust the sails and the ship's course. So it is with life. We can't control external events, but we can choose how to respond to them. Epictetus, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, reminds us that it's not things that disturb us, but our opinions about things. In other words, what truly unsettles us isn't what happens around us, but how we choose to perceive those situations. In moments of crisis, the secret is to pause before reacting, reflect on what truly matters, and act based on what we can control, our mind and our choices. This is a powerful teaching. A crisis isn't something that comes to defeat us, but to test our ability to remain calm and rational. Throughout history, the great Stoics faced incredible adversities, from the loss of loved ones to political persecution and wars. What set them apart wasn't the absence of pain, but their ability to remain serene, to not let their emotions dominate them. In practice, this means that when we face a crisis, be it personal, professional, or emotional, we must remember that we have the power to choose our response. We can choose to act with courage, wisdom, and a calm mind. But how do we apply this in daily life? The answer lies in constant preparation. Don't wait for a crisis to start training your mind. The true art of staying calm in moments of crisis is developed through daily practices. Meditation, reflection, and self-awareness are all tools that help build inner peace, which becomes the foundation when the world around us seems to collapse. In a crisis, it's this inner peace that allows us to think clearly, make rational decisions, and stay calm. But this doesn't come overnight. It requires training. Stoicism teaches us that peace isn't a fleeting state, but a constant practice. The beauty of this philosophy is that by adopting it, you realize you don't need to wait for calm. You can cultivate it at any moment. True Stoic wisdom lies in understanding that the crisis isn't the greatest adversary, but our reaction to it is. By internalizing this lesson, you begin to see that even in the most challenging situations, you can find serenity. And it's this serenity that, in the end, becomes your greatest power. The true art of staying calm in moments of crisis isn't about avoiding the storm, but learning to navigate it with wisdom and courage. Self-discipline is often seen as a difficult skill to master, almost an innate quality that few possess. But the Stoics teach us that self-discipline isn't a mystical ability or something beyond our reach. It's a daily practice, a choice we make constantly. For the Stoics, true strength doesn't lie in momentary impulses, but in the ability to stay the course, even when tempted to veer off. The secret to overcoming daily limits lies in cultivating inner discipline, one that remains unshaken by life's ups and downs. Instead of waiting for a burst of motivation to act, Stoic philosophy teaches us to act consistently, day after day, based on our principles and goals. Epictetus, one of the greatest Stoic masters, said that it's not things that disturb us, but our opinions about them. Self-discipline begins right there, in how we choose to handle daily challenges. When an obstacle arises, our immediate reaction might be resistance or procrastination. Stoicism invites us to take a different approach. Instead of resisting difficulty, we should accept it as part of the process. Every challenge that comes our way is an opportunity to strengthen our discipline, to test our ability to stay focused, even when the urge to give up is strong. Every task, no matter how simple, is a chance to practice self-control and discipline. But how does this apply to everyday life? Imagine you're facing an important project, but procrastination seems to call your name. The Stoic, unlike most, doesn't give in to fleeting emotional urges. Instead, they return to their core principles. What's more important, immediate gratification or achieving a greater, more meaningful goal? The answer is clear. Stoic discipline is about prioritizing what truly matters. Every small decision to postpone momentary pleasure in favor of a long-term goal strengthens our self-discipline. And through this constant practice, you gradually begin to overcome your limits. Discipline doesn't arise in moments of great strength, but in the repetition of small acts done with dedication and focus. The true magic of self-discipline, according to the Stoics, is that it's not an external force, but an internal energy that comes from a deep understanding of what we truly want to achieve in life. When you align with your highest values, self-discipline becomes natural. You're no longer making sacrifices for a distant goal, but acting in accordance with the person you want to become. This transforms daily effort into an act of fulfillment, not sacrifice. Stoic philosophy teaches us that the true secret to overcoming our daily limits lies in having clarity about what really matters and then dedicating every moment to that pursuit with patience, perseverance, and discipline. Fear is a powerful force, capable of paralyzing even the bravest among us. It's like a shadow that stretches out and holds us back, making us question our abilities and worth. But Stoicism offers a unique perspective. Fear isn't something to be feared, but something to be understood and confronted. The Stoics don't deny fear. They acknowledge it and, instead of running from it, face it with courage and clarity. At its core, fear is just a reaction to what we can't control. However, by embracing Stoic philosophy, we begin to understand that our true strength lies not in the absence of fear, but in how we choose to respond to it. Seneca, one of the greatest Stoic thinkers, teaches us that anxiety doesn't come from what happens, but from our reaction to what happens. Fear is a natural response to the unknown, but it's often amplified by our imagination, which creates apocalyptic scenarios and magnifies what is often an insignificant risk. Stoic philosophy teaches us to slow down, pause, and analyze. What am I really afraid of here? Is this something within my control? When we stop to reflect, we realize that most of our fears lack real substance. They're just shadows cast by our minds. The Stoics believe that by rationalizing fear and seeing situations in a clearer light, we can transform it into strength. Overcoming fear, then, doesn't mean eliminating the feeling of insecurity, but learning to act despite it. Fear, contrary to what many think, can be a great ally on the path to self-knowledge. It challenges us, tests us, and forces us out of our comfort zones. Stoic philosophy teaches us that true courage isn't the absence of fear, but action in the face of it. The Stoic doesn't wait for fear to disappear, but learns to make decisions with clarity, even when it's present. Instead of being consumed by insecurity, they act based on what they can control, and that's the secret to turning insecurities into strength. For example, if you're afraid of facing a new challenge, Stoic philosophy suggests breaking the problem into smaller, more manageable parts. Instead of looking at the overwhelming whole, focus on the next step, the one within your reach. By concentrating your attention on what you can control, you diminish the power of fear and gain confidence. This practical approach is one of the ways to use Stoicism to face life with renewed courage. Every small step taken toward the unknown, even with fear, is a victory, and it's this mindset of constant overcoming that strengthens our mental and emotional resilience. The human mind is like a garden. It needs to be cultivated with care and attention, or it quickly becomes fertile ground for weeds. The Stoics knew this. They understood that the mind requires daily practices, just as the body needs physical exercise. And these practices aren't grand heroic gestures, but simple, consistent habits that help free our minds from distractions and increase our emotional resilience. By adopting these practices, you begin to see a subtle but profound transformation in how you face life. Here are some of the essential practices the Stoics used to keep their minds sharp and their emotions in check. Daily reflection. For the Stoics, daily reflection was a fundamental practice. They set aside a moment each day, usually in the morning or evening, to reflect on their actions, thoughts, and emotions. The goal was to ask themselves, how did I behave today? What did I do well? What could I have done better? This helped develop self-awareness and learn from each day without judgment, but with the intention of growth. Daily reflection allows you to free your mind from regrets about the past and anxieties about the future, turning your attention to the present. The practice of gratitude. Being grateful is one of the most powerful ways to cultivate inner peace. The Stoics didn't see gratitude as something external, but as an internal practice. They recommended that, every day, you remind yourself of the things you're grateful for. It doesn't have to be something grand. It could be the simple fact of being alive, having health, or learning something new. Gratitude helps lighten the weight of negativity and increases our resilience by forcing us to focus on the good, even amidst difficulties. Letting go of control. True freedom, according to the Stoics, comes from detachment. They taught that by clinging to what we can't control, like others' opinions, the outcome of our actions, or world events, we become prisoners. The practice of letting go is one of the most powerful for freeing our minds. By releasing the obsession with controlling the uncontrollable, we begin to experience true peace. The secret lies in focusing only on what we can control, our actions, thoughts, and reactions. Negative visualization. Though it may seem strange at first, this is one of the most powerful practices taught by the Stoics. It involves imagining in a controlled way the loss of something we love, be it a friend, a job, or our health. The goal isn't to cultivate fear, but to emotionally prepare for the inevitable so that when difficulties arise, we aren't caught off guard. Negative visualization teaches us to value what we have more and to face life with more balance, knowing that nothing is permanent. The exercise of self-control. One of the pillars of Stoicism is self-control. For the Stoics, the mind isn't something to be dominated, but guided with firmness and wisdom. They practiced self-control in small daily things, choosing not to give in to impulsive desires, staying focused on important tasks, or even practicing fasting to strengthen discipline. Self-control, even in small actions, strengthens the mind and emotional resilience, helping to build a stronger mindset capable of withstanding life's challenges. These practices, though simple, have a profound impact on the mind and heart. They teach us to live more consciously, gratefully, and focused on what truly matters. As a result, our emotional resilience grows, and our ability to face life's challenges becomes stronger. The most interesting part is that these practices don't require major changes or sacrifices, but simply a daily commitment to our own growth. By practicing them consistently, you begin to notice a silent but powerful transformation in how you live and respond to the world around you. We live in a world where the future always seems one step ahead, calling our attention and making us chase something that often never arrives. We're so focused on what's to come that we forget to live in the present moment. But Stoicism teaches us that true peace isn't in the promises of the future, but in the acceptance and appreciation of the now. The Stoics believed that by focusing on the present, we can find not only inner peace, but also the clarity and wisdom needed to live a fulfilling life. The key to mental and emotional freedom is learning to live in the now without getting lost in distractions from the future or the past. When we talk about living in the present, we're not just referring to an absence of worries about the future, but a profound shift in perspective. It's about being fully immersed in the moment, without letting thoughts pull us away from what's in front of us. Stoic philosophy is an invitation to slow down and breathe. It's about learning to value what you have now, instead of endlessly chasing something that may not even be necessary. Seneca, in his letters, said, "Life is long enough, and a sufficiently generous amount has been given for the greatest achievements, if the whole of it is well invested." In other words, when you learn to live in the present, you discover that enough is truly enough. Living in the present also means understanding that the past can't be changed, and the future is an unknown territory. What truly matters is what you do now, in this exact moment. Every action, no matter how simple, carries within it the opportunity to transform your life. By adopting this perspective, you begin to realize that happiness isn't in a distant goal, but in every small step taken in the now. Stoicism invites us to let go of worries and expectations and simply be. We're no longer prisoners of future expectations or past memories, but find freedom in the fullness of the present moment. This doesn't mean we should abandon our goals or dreams, but rather learn to enjoy them in the context of the now. By focusing on the present moment, we can act with more effectiveness, presence, and passion. This makes us stronger, more resilient, because we're no longer at the mercy of worries about what's to come. Instead, we live with the confidence that, by doing our best now, the future will align with what we do today. This gives us the power to face any challenge with serenity, knowing that, no matter how uncertain the future may be, the present moment is our greatest source of power and clarity. An unbreakable mindset doesn't emerge overnight, but through the constant practice of resilience, patience, and wisdom. However, contrary to what many think, this strength doesn't come from brute force or an inability to feel or suffer. On the contrary, it arises from the ability to stay centered, even in the face of the greatest adversities. Stoicism, with its profound and practical teachings, offers the key to this transformation. To develop an unbreakable mindset, you need to start understanding that true strength lies in accepting life's difficulties, not in trying to avoid them. The Stoics believed that life shouldn't be seen as a series of obstacles to overcome, but as an opportunity to grow, learn, and strengthen our character. They taught us that pain and adversity aren't enemies to be defeated, but teachers that impart valuable lessons. By adopting this perspective, we begin to realize that our true strength doesn't come from avoiding pain, but from learning to face it with wisdom and serenity. The secret to an unbreakable mindset is to embrace difficulties with courage and determination, knowing that every challenge is an opportunity to become stronger. An unbreakable mindset, therefore, is one that doesn't flee from pain or suffering but faces them with an attitude of acceptance and action. It's a mindset that understands that suffering is a natural part of life, but doesn't define who we are. Epictetus, for example, teaches that it's not things themselves that afflict us, but the way we perceive them. When you internalize this lesson, you understand that true strength doesn't come from a world without difficulties, but from how you respond to those difficulties. By embracing Stoic philosophy, you learn to respond to adversities with wisdom, calm, and self-confidence. A fundamental practice for strengthening this mindset is negative visualization, something the Stoics frequently used. By imagining, in a controlled way, the worst possible scenario, you prepare your mind to handle anything that may arise. This exercise isn't meant to generate fear or anxiety, but to provide a sense of control. By visualizing adversities, you strengthen yourself emotionally, creating a space where resilience becomes natural. When you truly understand and accept that difficulties are part of the journey, you begin to realize that an unbreakable mindset is possible, not because you'll never fall, but because you'll always be able to rise, stronger than before. Suffering is an inevitable part of the human experience. At some point in life, we all face challenges that test us to our limits. It could be the loss of a loved one, the end of a relationship, a financial crisis, or simply the feeling that things aren't going as expected. However, Stoicism teaches us that suffering, though painful, doesn't have to be a condemnation. On the contrary, it can be a catalyst for growth and transformation. The Stoics believed that adversity is an essential part of life, a disguised opportunity to develop our inner strength and resilience. The real question isn't how to avoid suffering, but how to face it with a serene mind and a steady heart. Seneca, one of the most influential Stoic philosophers, said, "Pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional." This phrase encapsulates the essence of Stoicism. Suffering isn't a choice, but our response to it is. For the Stoic, suffering isn't something to be feared or avoided, but something to be accepted with the awareness that it's part of the human journey. When you adopt this perspective, you begin to understand that pain doesn't define who you are. It's merely a temporary experience that, with the right mindset, can be overcome. Suffering then becomes an opportunity for transformation, a chance to discover the strength within us. Facing adversity with a Stoic mind means cultivating mental resilience, the ability to stay steady when the world seems to crumble around you. True mental strength doesn't come from the absence of pain, but from the ability to face pain with wisdom and courage. The Stoics practiced emotional detachment, which means not fully identifying with pain or loss, but seeing them as temporary events that don't affect our essence. By developing this ability to distance yourself, you begin to realize that, while suffering is real, it doesn't have to be destructive. Instead, it becomes a tool for self-discovery, a way to become stronger, more compassionate, and more resilient. An essential practice the Stoics used to deal with suffering was gradual exposure. They believed that by facing pain in a controlled way, we can learn to endure it more easily. This doesn't mean seeking suffering, but being prepared to deal with it when it inevitably arises. By consciously confronting our limitations, fears, and fragilities, we can strengthen ourselves and eventually overcome them. Stoicism teaches us that true peace doesn't come from escaping suffering, but from the ability to face it with courage, serenity, and wisdom. When we accept suffering as part of life, our relationship with it changes, and we become capable of navigating difficulties with a calmer mind and a stronger spirit. Happiness is a constant pursuit in many people's lives, but it's often mistaken for a fleeting sensation of pleasure or the achievement of a specific goal. However, true happiness, according to the Stoics, doesn't depend on external circumstances, but on our ability to find inner peace, regardless of what's happening around us. The Stoics believed that true peace doesn't come from the absence of challenges, but from how we choose to face those challenges. Happiness for them wasn't an endless pursuit of pleasure, but a daily choice to cultivate tranquility, wisdom, and acceptance of the present moment. For the Stoics, happiness isn't something outside of us, waiting to be found in a new achievement or a specific moment. Instead, it's within us, waiting to be recognized. Seneca, in his letters, writes that, "It's not what happens to us, but how we react to what happens, that determines our peace of mind." This teaching is an invitation to seek happiness within ourselves, rather than in external things. By learning to focus on what truly matters, our inner peace, resilience, and ability to live with virtue, we begin to understand that true happiness doesn't depend on what we have, but on who we are. The Stoics teach us that happiness lies in living a life aligned with our deepest values and principles. By focusing on what we can control, our reactions, attitudes, and thoughts, we begin to realize that instead of seeking happiness in external and fleeting things, we can cultivate it within ourselves. The practice of acceptance is essential in this process. Accepting what we can't change allows us to focus on what is within our reach, like how we respond to life's challenges. True Stoic happiness lies in being able to find peace, even in difficulties, knowing that every challenge is an opportunity to grow and evolve. This idea of happiness isn't a fleeting joy, but a deep and lasting peace that comes from living in harmony with nature and what is inevitable. To achieve this inner peace, the Stoics practiced emotional self-sufficiency, the ability to not depend on external factors to maintain balance. They believed that by living according to reason and virtue, we achieve true freedom, a freedom unaffected by external circumstances, but rooted in inner peace. This is the path to lasting happiness, learning to find balance and serenity regardless of the storms that may arise in our lives. Criticism is inevitable. It can come from friends, family, co-workers, or even strangers. Often it can deeply shake us, making us question our choices, abilities, and even our self-worth. But Stoicism offers a unique way to deal with criticism, teaching us that how we react to it is far more important than the criticism itself. Instead of letting others' words consume us, Stoic philosophy teaches us to cultivate emotional immunity, where criticism doesn't affect our inner balance because we don't let it define who we are. Epictetus, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, said, "What afflicts us isn't things, but our opinions about them." This means that criticism, no matter how harsh, only has the power to hurt us if we decide it does. If you understand that others' criticisms are merely reflections of their opinions, not absolute truths about who you are, you begin to free yourself from the emotional weight they carry. The Stoics teach us that true freedom comes from separating our emotions from external opinions and recognizing that the only opinion that truly matters is our own. This doesn't mean we should completely ignore criticism or become insensitive. Stoicism invites us to reflect on criticism constructively. If a criticism has value, we can use it as a tool for personal growth. But if it's baseless or cruel, we can choose to let it pass without affecting us. The key here is emotional control, not allowing others' words to dictate our emotional response. When you learn not to identify with criticism, you begin to strengthen yourself emotionally, developing a more robust and resilient mindset. True immunity to criticism comes from understanding that your inner peace depends only on you, not on external opinions. For example, imagine receiving harsh criticism about your work. Instead of reacting impulsively, you take a step back and analyze it rationally. If the criticism is valid, you use it to improve. If it's not, you let it go without being shaken. This is the essence of Stoic emotional control, the ability to choose how to react to any situation. Over time, you realize that criticism doesn't have the power to destabilize you. It becomes just another part of life, something you can handle with wisdom and calm. This ability to control emotions not only improves your relationships with others, but also strengthens your inner peace and self-confidence. Stoic philosophy has the power to completely transform how we see life. It's not just an abstract theory, but a daily practice that can profoundly change how we respond to challenges and perceive the world around us. For me, the lessons from the great Stoic masters not only changed how I live, but also taught me to find strength in difficulties and peace in moments of turmoil. If I had to summarize what Stoicism has taught me, it would be these 11 fundamental lessons. They aren't just beautiful words, but principles that have shaped my life, allowing me to face adversities with more clarity and serenity. 1. Accepting what I can't control. Stoicism taught me that most of my distress comes from trying to control the uncontrollable. Accepting that I can't control others, the future, or external circumstances, but I can control how I react to them, was liberating. This lesson was the first step toward inner peace. 2. The power of the mind over emotions. Emotions are natural, but Stoicism taught me not to be their slave. I learned not to let my emotions dominate my reason. With practice, I was able to respond to challenges more rationally, calmly, and in control. 3. Valuing the present moment. The idea that the past can't be changed and the future is uncertain helped me focus on the now. By living fully in the present moment, I found a peace that once seemed unattainable. The present is the only place where action happens, and when I learned to embrace this, my life gained much more meaning. 4. The practice of detachment. Learning to let go of material possessions and specific outcomes was one of the hardest, but also one of the most liberating lessons. Detachment gave me a sense of freedom, as I learned that my happiness isn't tied to external things, but to how I see the world and my life. 5. Resilience in the face of adversity. Stoicism taught me to see difficulties as opportunities for growth. Instead of being defeated, I learned to be resilient and find strength in adversities. Every challenge I face is a chance to become a stronger version of myself. 6. The importance of discipline. Self-discipline is one of the pillars of Stoicism. I learned that true freedom comes from discipline and self-control. By cultivating healthy and consistent habits, I was able to transform my life positively and lastingly. 7. Controlling what I can control. The Stoics teach us to focus on what we can control, our thoughts, actions, and reactions. This changed how I approach situations. Instead of worrying about what's beyond my control, I focus my energy on what I can influence. 8. Living in accordance with nature. This lesson taught me to be more in harmony with myself and the world around me. By living more simply and aligned with my values, I found deeper satisfaction and a sense of connection with the universe. 9. The value of daily reflection. Daily reflection has become an essential practice for me. By reflecting on my actions and decisions, I could learn from my mistakes and celebrate my achievements. This helped me stay focused on my goals and improve every day. 10. The importance of gratitude. Stoicism taught me to be grateful for what I have, instead of focusing on what I lack. This practice of gratitude brought me deep peace and a new perspective on life. When I learned to value what I already have, happiness became much more accessible. 11. The wisdom of emotional control. Finally, the Stoics taught me the art of controlling my emotions. This doesn't mean suppressing feelings, but managing my reactions wisely and in a balanced way. I learned that my emotions don't have to define my life, and true emotional freedom comes from the constant practice of self-control. These 11 Stoic lessons changed my life in ways I never imagined. They gave me the tools to face challenges with serenity, cultivate inner peace, and live a life more aligned with my values. By adopting these principles, I not only improved my own life, but also began to see the world with more clarity and purpose. And the best part? Stoicism is an ongoing daily practice. With every day and every challenge, I have the opportunity to apply these lessons and grow as a person. Now that you've learned about the 11 Stoic lessons that can transform your life, the real question is, what will you do with them? Knowing these teachings isn't enough. You need to put them into practice. Start with small daily changes. Observe your thoughts, practice gratitude, and remember that true strength comes from within. Stoicism isn't about being immune to life's challenges, but about learning to face them with serenity, courage, and wisdom. Now it's your moment. Which of these lessons resonated with you the most? How can you apply these principles to your daily life? I challenge you to take action and use Stoicism as a tool to achieve your goals and live with more inner peace. Leave a comment with the lesson that touched your heart the most and share your experiences. I'd love to hear how you're applying these lessons. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell to stay updated on content about mastering your mind and reaching your full potential.